Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator, in partnership with the Corey Higher Education Council. The Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. Welcome to Community Chronicles Radio. If you have a question, give us a call. The number in the studio is 814-679-1080. I am Dr. Matthew Plotz, and with me today, as always, is our knowledgeable co-host, Steph Screws. How are you, Steph?
Great. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing well. It's a nice morning. Hearing the weather, it sounds like it's going to turn a little bit rainy this afternoon, but it's a beautiful morning. Doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's a little cool here in Corey. I don't know, the sun's kind of coming in and out, but yeah, it should warm up and be nice for later on this afternoon. Hopefully not too much rain. So
a decent day anyway. So I'm a little bit off this morning. I went up to North Tonawanda last night to see Lewis Black. He's on his farewell tour. He's going to hang it up and no longer tour in the comedian space. But they have another show tonight in Jamestown at the Comedy Center. It was such a great show. Anybody that's listening, if they still have tickets, I would recommend the short drive to Jamestown to see that. Very small space there, so it might be sold out, but it was a great show and something that I recommend. If you can catch him before he retires, it's worth the money.
Definitely. That's great. He's going to be in Jamestown tonight then, you said?
Yeah, he was doing 2 shows for the National Comedy Center. I should say that if you haven't been to the National Comedy Center, what's that, 35-40 minutes to Jamestown, I highly recommend stopping in there, even if there's no comedian performing that night. It is an awesome place to be, and it's like a jewel. It's like right down the road. It's 40 minutes isn't too far, but yeah, he's there tonight, so good stuff.
My parents went there, and when you go in, you actually take a comedy test. And so every room you go in, actually you stand on a thing and you have like a wristband, and the comedy show or comedy, little segment is to your humor. So like my mom had something different than my dad.
Oh.
And then you leave with a joke that's per your humor.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Oh, like the dad joke.
Mm-hmm, right.
Do they have dark humor? Because that's what kind of we can't do that on this show, but I think that stuff's funny.
I'm not sure.
All right. So I am thrilled to introduce our first guest this morning. If you haven't seen the art that this guest produces, I suggest you run and don't walk to the website to see what he produces. I'm happy to introduce Adam Stemka, owner of Erie's Own Metalheads. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Yes, welcome, Adam. As it is always our custom on the show, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and if you are an Erie native?
Yeah, so I am born and raised here in Erie. I went to high school out at Fort LaBeouf. So I've lived here my entire life, actually.
That's great. Can you tell us a little, just like a background about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So, I kind of grew up in like a welding family. My family owns advanced welding technologies, and my father was a welder. My uncles are welders. My grandfather was a welder. So I was around all this welding my entire life. But, when I was younger and going through high school, I really loved art, and I really excelled at art, to the point where like I was weighing it over in my head, should I go to art school? I mean, that's where my heart was. I don't know why I didn't make the choice to go to art school. I think that growing up around such, blue collar working people like my grandfather that I looked up to, I don't know if I was embarrassed to do it or what, but anyway, I chose to go into the welding field. I started working at, of course, my uncle's shop, Advanced Welding. I did that for a couple of years, and then I went to the shipyard. I was welding there structurally on the ships and whatnot, and then I moved to General Electric. And I became really good at welding. Welding is like an art form in itself, and it takes a lifetime to master. And so I enjoyed that aspect of it, but I really longed to like create. And, I remember thinking one day when I was at work, if they would just let me have this scrap steel on the ground, I could make some of the coolest things ever, And GE, how GE is, when they're busy, and when they're not, you get laid off. And it was around 2017 um, that I was laid off at the time. I had just bought myself a new welder. I had some metal in my garage at my home, and I just took a crack at, making a metal deer skull. And I placed that online, kind of showing it off because I was just, proud of myself. And didn't I sell it to a gentleman down in Florida? And I think a light bulb really went off then. Like something that, hey, Adam, this is something that, you could do, you're creating, and maybe make a business out of it. And then that same gentleman asked me to kind of like design and make a battle worn flag. And of course I did that and sent that to him, and put it on Facebook, and boy, the ball just started rolling from there. That's when I created the company and dialed in the design, and Metalheads has really blown up since then.
I was looking at your website, and I hate to admit it, but I'd never heard of metalheads before. When I saw the term metalheads, I was thinking, like rock and roll or metal, like that kind of metal. And then I was like, oh, that kind of metalhead. And then I was like, wow, you have such beautiful work. I mean, such talent, and it's just gorgeous. So, could you tell us a little bit about your business, Metalheads?
Yeah. So we make the battle worn flags, okay, and it's designed to look like it went through a battle, but it's still waving beautifully. Kind of like the country itself. We go through things, but we always come through the other side and continue to thrive and get better over time. And so that's kind of like the design of the image. Now we sell them in different sizes, and we allow customization, like maybe names and dates of, somebody in your family that served, or maybe you yourself. And then we apply, the different military sigils and some wording. We do from time to time put, like business logos on them, if they want to display this flag at their business and maybe have their logo on it, or maybe just some wording. Some of our most popular ones are Home of the Free because of the Brave, or In God We Trust, or, whatever it may be within reason, right? We don't allow anything on the flag, but yeah, we make them from 15 inches to 15 by 30 to 2 foot by 4 foot to 3 foot by 6 foot, all the way up to 4 feet by 8 feet. And they're all handmade. We're out there taping them off and painting them and grinding them, and then clearing them and airbrushing them. So you're really getting a piece of us, really, But yeah, we've shipped them all over the country, even some to France.
Wow.
We're up to like 30,000 of these things. And then, of course, Metalheads also, part of my dream is to, be an artist and do these sculptures for people. And so I've started a new brand, Stemka Designs, where that's just kind of me as an artist doing the sculptures for like clients to land on for that kind of stuff. But you can still see some of that on Metalheads USA. You can see the guitars that I did for Luke Bryan, the country artist, that 8 foot tall cello, all made out of copper and brass and steel. The giraffe, I think, is on there. So I get into a lot of that, but I like to stay in, signage, flags, and then of course, these art pieces is kind of, what Metalheads and Stemka Designs is.
Now, do you work mainly by yourself, or do you have employees, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that is kind of the great task right now, right? Is like I'm starting to get right now I'm completely booked with large scale sculptures. I'm actually doing sculptures for out in Corey right now too, out into next year. And so it's like, okay, Adam, well, how do you scale this up? Because I have to meet with the clients and design, and then of course do all the business things, and then build these things as well. So I have a small team. Of course, my father works with me, my son, my nephew. And I've recently started to bring in like some of the younger kids at the trade schools. I have another young artist actually coming this Saturday. I'm going to be trying him out. So I'm realizing real quickly that, it can't just be a one-man show. I mean, it can, but it's only going to get so big if I do it that way. And so I'm learning to really, build a small team of really skilled people where we can kind of bang this stuff out.
That's great. So you kind of keep it like a family affair. Of course, like you said, you've got to have the skills and, like I said, the talent to be able to produce the same, what you would like to produce and keep the quality and the
Hmm.
creativity how you'd like it. Yeah. Um,
Hey,
what
Seth,
would you say?
I'm going to
Oh,
jump
yes,
in
go
here.
ahead.
Kathy had a question. I think it might have built off something you said.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you. Adam, this is Kathy from ETI. And the question I have for you, on the website, your flags, your battle worn flags are just absolutely breathtaking and beautiful.
Thank
Because
you.
of that, what is the percentage, if you know, of veterans or families of veterans that are buying these flags?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably about 70%.
Okay.
Um, a lot of times either a veteran himself or a family member of a veteran will buy one, with maybe all the different badges and the military sigil of the branch that they served in, along with names and dates as like a tribute to them, and so that happens a lot. There are other people that just want the flag or maybe one of the thin blue line flags or thin red line for firefighters and police. But yeah, I would say that it's about 70% for veterans and people that serve in some form.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing that for them.
Absolutely, yeah. And me and my dad laugh. I mean, anybody that calls, can you donate to this? Can you donate to that? We always say yes. We always say yes, even when business was tough. We would say yes, because that brings more business than you can imagine, and it's just the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like I didn't serve in the military, neither did my father. His brother did, but as an entrepreneur, I am extremely grateful for the opportunity that I have in this country. And if the one little thing I can do is, when one of these people or organizations asks for a free flag to donate, I do it. Because I know that doing that will come back tenfold, and it has with relationships with larger businesses or foundations, and kind of like the more you give, the more you get. I mean, I am a firm believer.
So, interestingly, I was volunteering at an event, and one of your flags was there. And the phenomenon that happens, and you're absolutely correct. Well, people come up and they see it, and it draws people right to it. These are so impressive that when you put them out for a raffle or something like that, people are just drawn to it, and they kind of stand there like looking at it for a while, filling out their
Hmm.
tickets. And like you said, there's only one person gets to win the flag. But people think, oh, who would like that? My dad, he can get one. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That donation's probably tenfold by the end for people who come to see you anyway.
Yeah, it's really been that kind of, I guess you could call it marketing, but it's like a twofold thing. You're doing something good for a community or foundation by gifting it, but it's also its own marketing. Like you said, everybody can see it, people want it. So it just works all the way around. And, I never really had the money to do real marketing on like Google and that kind of thing. So it's just been this groundswell, which I think has worked for us. I don't like things to be shoved in my face all the time to like buy this, buy this, buy this. And so I kind of use that mindset. Like people will see our product, they will come looking for us. And that has worked for us. And it's worked for us in the sense that things didn't get too big too quick either. And so it's just been this like perfect growth, and I'm just really grateful for the whole thing. It's been wonderful.
So excuse me, what flag would you say is your best seller?
I would say our bestseller would be the smaller 15-inch by 30-inch, red, white, and blue, and the saying "Home of the Free because of the Brave." We have sold so many of those. I think it's a great statement, and it's a good size because it can go in your home somewhere, in your man cave, outside. Um, yeah, that seems to be the most popular one. It's the easiest one to ship, so it doesn't cost a ton of money to ship that one.
So what flag, going off that now, what flag has been your favorite to create?
Oh boy. Well, recently, after 7 years, we finally put a flag on my studio And and on it I have "In God We Trust." I'm a big believer in God. So is my family and whatnot. And it was just a great feeling to finally have one on the front of our building. And we built a 4x8, so 4 feet by 8 feet, and it's rolled like it's waving in the wind on the front of the building. And then we lit it up and stuff. So yeah, that one meant a lot to me. I mean, but we've made a lot of flags for a lot of great organizations. Gary Sinise, when he was here,
No.
we're actually doing some for Robert Irvine's foundation this
Oh,
coming week.
nice.
Tunnel for Towers. We've yeah, yeah, we've done a lot of cool stuff.
Now, where can people go, like if they want to create a custom flag? Where would you send them, or how can they
Yeah,
do it?
so that's kind of one of the things that I have to iron out is like when you go on the website, um, you can add some sayings or add your own text, but I need to make that more simplified because that can become so detailed. We ask that you call. Okay, you
Yeah.
call us directly at 814-490-0184. My father Ray takes all the orders over the phone, and he's great. I mean, we've been doing this for years, and we can really dial in, what images you want on there, the wording, and where it's going to be placed on the flag. And so that's what I would recommend if you're looking to have something custom like that.
And you mentioned that you're not just putting anything on the flag because there are certain parameters that you would, kind of want to hold to.
Yeah, we don't want to delve into anything negative or, anything too crazy on the left or the right. We kind of stay in the middle, and we just want people to love America and be proud of America. And yeah, so we sometimes do like business logos and things like that. But I mean, I would say like I was saying earlier, 75-80% of people that are putting wording on there is usually, a gentleman's name and their rank and the years that they served in the branch that they served, or maybe a police officer that is retiring, or a firefighter or whatever. And that's usually the wording that goes on these.
So, Adam, a quick question, because I'm totally thinking of Christmas. I love Christmas. If I wanted to order a Christmas gift, which I definitely do for a friend of mine, how long of a lead time do you need in order to get it done for Christmas?
So we ask for 3 weeks.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not
Wow,
bad.
that's not
Yeah,
bad at all.
yeah, that gives us time to have everybody in the book and have a good lead time.
Okay.
We do make exceptions from time to time. Someone will call and like, oh, I need this in 4 days or something, and we usually try to do that, if we can. But yeah, certainly, the earlier you can, the better. As Christmas, as I'm sure gets a little crazy, but yeah, 3 weeks is usually what we ask for.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I will be calling your dad soon.
Yes. Oh, he's wonderful. Ray.
We made a sale.
Right.
There's a conversion.
Yeah.
We look for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love to buy local.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me on here.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Hmm.
What is I'm looking at your website too, and all your custom builds. They're just as beautiful. What is the largest like custom build, or probably the most I don't know, the difficult one? I don't know if you'd say difficult, but that you've worked on, or that took the longest, or
Yeah, so when you're on that website, and I need to update that because I've done a couple more things recently, but those tablets for the Jewish temple Anchi Hassad, so
Oh
those
yeah,
are cast bronze. They're like
wow.
5 inches thick with the Hebrew Ten Commandments on them, and I had to, weld in I-beam, so I'm welding steel to cast bronze, and then make the structure underneath all out of steel, and then put a footer in the ground and have a crane involved to set these things in place, and put
Oh,
the surround around it, and then apply all the glass. So that was tricky. That's getting into some serious projects. It's not just building something in your garage. You're having to coordinate with, the concrete and the electricity and all these different things. And so I'm starting to do more of that. Luckily, I have been kind of brought up in that, building trains and ships and things like
Yeah.
that. I understand how to build things structurally sound and safe to do things on a large scale like that. So it's a unique skill set that I have.
So
So
you
yeah,
also
wow, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm sorry. You
no,
also
you're
said
fine.
something about Luke. Was it Luke Bryan you made one for?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
okay.
This
Yeah. You
guitar
want to
is
hear that
beautiful.
story,
Yes, I would
Lisa?
love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So, here, check it out. So, I had a gentleman named Brent Yates, okay, reach out to me. He's from Ohio. And he was looking for originally these palm trees for around his pool made of steel. That didn't end up working out, but he asked for like a cello. And so, I drew on a piece of paper at the time, what this cello might look like, all made out of steel and brass and bronze. And, he gave me a shot at it, and I was paid really well to do it. And it was just like one of those God moments where that thing came out phenomenal. And I
Hmm.
took it to his house. He's very wealthy philanthropist. I took it to his house in Nashville and set it up for him. And he was like, I remember, after I delivered it, and he had me there for a couple hours. I'm leaving. I'm heading back to Erie, and he sends me a picture, and he's like, Adam, I'm more proud of this thing than anything that I own. He's
Wow.
like, you killed it,
Oh,
man.
I got goosebumps.
And this guy owns like Ferraris and houses all over the country and stuff. And so anyway, that fostered into like a friendship with that gentleman, to whom I still work with. I'm part of a company now with him, and he is very well connected. He's friends with Luke Bryan, and Luke has this thing that he does once a year down in Nashville where they bring in like different things for auction and whatnot. And I got commissioned by Luke to build him a guitar, one for auction, and then Brent Yates was going to get one of these guitars. So I actually built three of those. And so I got to go down in October, give it to Luke, hang out with Luke, Jason Aldean, and all these people down there. And then the one was like the star of the show there. They put up for auction and ended up going for $76,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
That
Adam.
is
That's
so
awesome.
cool.
yeah, yeah, and so like that is an experience I will never ever forget. And you know, that was a dream come true. And as you can imagine, that has led to all kinds of. I actually just yesterday I was featured in Fab Shop magazine. So you'll see that on my social media and stuff. I've been tagging it on my Instagram and whatnot. But like after that happened, of course, people are reaching out, and
Yeah, yeah.
and the snowball starts going.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
They look absolutely gorgeous
Yeah,
on your site.
I was gonna say
Thank
the
you.
same thing. Just looking at it, I'm like staring at this
Looks
guitar. It's
real.
like, wow, it's beautiful.
So that is all steel. I mean, it has the ribbing inside. They actually were tuned, so you can play them. I have videos where they're playing. Not Luke is not playing it, but we were trying them out in the shop.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and there's a 23 karat gold leaf, bronze inside of them, and so as you can imagine, knowing the opportunity, I did the best that I possibly could, at
Yeah.
that time, and that's been huge for me.
Well, I'm getting the 1 minute to go here before the news break. Adam, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was great to learn about, and yeah, I've definitely been looking for a while and thinking about it, and so has Kathy. But we appreciate you coming on and telling the story.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah.
So you are
Certain pleasure.
listening to Community Chronicles Radio on 103.3 FM, 105.9 FM, and 1530 AM. And as always, through our Facebook page. After the news break, we will have Kathy Roach from the Erie Technology Incubator, a voice you've heard on this radio quite a few times. But we're going to get her story. So
In the
stick
hot seat.
around. You'll come back after the news break, and we'll be here to talk to Kathy. So what else do we have? I have a minute here. If you have a question, Welcome back to Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator. In partnership with the Corey Higher Education Council, the Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. So, our second guest this morning is a voice that you have heard frequently on the show. Please welcome Manager of Entrepreneurial Operations at the Erie Technology Incubator, Kathy Roach.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I'm super excited, even though I'm in the hot seat, which is weird. I think I prefer to ask the question.
It's the moment Brad has been waiting for since last week.
I think my question was that bad. Oh my.
Oh, he sent me questions and you're no, he didn't.
Well, how about we start off by tell us about you, Kathy. Are you an Erie native or are you an import?
Oh, no. I am a total Erie native, born at Hammett way back when. My mom was from Erie. My dad was from Sharon and transplanted up here. But except for moving away to Nevada and Massachusetts for a couple years, came back to raise my family in Erie. So love it.
So we've heard a lot about the Erie Technology Incubator and Beehive at Gannon. What do you do for those important projects?
What don't I do? So, well, I was hired mainly at first for being the manager of the technology incubator at the same time that Brad was hired to be the director. So, we make a super great team, but, was basically hired almost to be like a concierge, to make sure that all of our clients that were there were getting the best assistance possible. Both Brad and I go above and beyond to help everybody that's there. And then we also took over the Gannon Beehive, which is a phenomenal network of, the 5 universities and the library, each of us offering certain services for free, FREE, to startups in the area. And, working with the students, kind of managing them is kind of what my job has been.
So can you tell us about one of your biggest successes in your role?
So I wouldn't say I have like one big success, because each time we help a startup, it's a success. Whether it's bringing them into the Beehive and helping them, or maybe they're not ready for us or they're beyond our help, but we connect them to somebody else that takes them to the next level. Looking at that, that's always a success. Even working with students and giving them an opportunity to, gain real world experience by helping entrepreneurs. That's a success. Brad has said it numerous times. We really provide the Jerry Maguire effect, which is every single person that we work with, we treat as our only client. So they get 250% of us, because, we look at it as their company is our company. So we want to do everything we possibly can to make sure that there is success. But I also think the one thing that was really exciting and was a super success was during Global Entrepreneurial Week, which is the week before Thanksgiving. And on the Friday, we actually had the entrepreneurial ecosystem from Erie in the Gannon Center for Business Ingenuity, and had probably, I think it was 29 or 30 agencies that help startups for free or at low cost. And we had 50 startups from the area come in, and they took a little test to see which projection they were on. Were they just starting out? They would follow red flags. If they were a little farther along, they would follow the blue flags. And if they were really looking for just mainly funding, then they would follow the green flags. But each person was there they could talk to, find out what services were available to them. So that was a humongous success, and we're definitely going to be doing that again on the Friday, to the point that Matt did it down in Corey for the Rural Entrepreneurship Week as well. So, any way that we can get the word out about, everyone that's in the ecosystem, that is a success. because we're helping people.
And we talk about it all the time in this space, the ecosystem. One of the greatest parts about that week, and you know how you finished up with all those pieces and parts there, is the idea that it's no wrong door. So there were several times that people would come and talk to me, and they talk about where they were, and I would say, "Oh, you got to go over here," and sometimes walk them over to make the introduction. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, it was a great event, and that's why we copied it, because I felt that it was useful to the entrepreneurs in the area. We're hoping that yours did really well. I think it's going to take time for ours to kind of get people's attention and come in. But the idea that it's all free, they should just stop by, even if they have just a basic idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I thought that was really great, watching everybody interact, was the ecosystem members themselves may not have known about this certain agency, and they were able to connect and then, form a relationship. So that was really, really nice as well.
Yeah, this is Brad. I'm going to jump in and just, first of all, point out that the Global Entrepreneur Week was, most people go to conferences and it's a chance to maybe slip out of a session or collect a lot of free pens. But Kathy went to a conference and came back with an idea as a roadmap to which turned into Global Entrepreneur Week. So she got the conference religion and came back and wanted to put it to action. It's a huge credit to her, and she was able to execute and have an event we hadn't seen in Erie before. So hats off to you, Kathy.
Oh, well, thank you. I drank the Kool-Aid.
Even more, Kathy. So we have a joke about Kathy and what she brings to the table.
Oh no!
And that the term is vitamin K.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, vitamin Kathy. So K for Kathy there. But how do you summon the energy that you do? Because I get to see it every day. To inspire and energize the startups across the ecosystem that we work with. What is your secret to bringing that energy and passion that you do?
I always tell people it's just the drugs I take in the morning and the coffee with my creamer. No, I mean, my parents instilled in me. My dad was in the seminary for a while till he met my mom. But we've always grown up with helping others. That was always instilled in us, and I always tried to find jobs where I was helping others. So, they are the ones that really energize me, coming in with, a question or a problem, and they sit in my blue chair because it's super comfy, and we talk it out. Or even if that they are just talking out loud, they're creating their own light bulb moment, because just hearing what maybe their problem is, they've already had a solution, but they're the ones that give me the energy, because I just love to help, everybody. So I guess that's the vitamin K. Plus I give hugs. Not many people give hugs, but whether you're a hugger or not, I'm coming in for a hug. So
that's true.
Yeah, that is totally true.
Very true.
So I hope that answers your question.
Can you take a little bit just to explain the Erie technology process? If somebody's a startup and they're starting to get traction, I think Adam in the first section is an example of a company starting to really grow and scale. But those that are trying to get to that point are the ones that usually come into our ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about how a business might get into ETI and kind of grow?
Oh, absolutely. We, just by calling us at 814-490-4240 or emailing roach009@gannon.edu or Gleason, Gleason 006 at gannon.edu, coming in for a conversation, finding out where you're at, what your needs are, and then we put you on the trajectory for coming into the incubator. So that is working with us, working with Bill Dietz at the Small Business Development Center across the lobby from me, working where he'll help with the business plan, your pitch deck, and the financials. He's very good at that. Coming back to us, working on your pitch, practicing, we pretend that we're the intake committee. And then you go in front of our intake committee. And those are local entrepreneurs that serve on our committee. Some are board members, some are not. And you have about 10, 15 minutes to pitch your product to them or your idea. and they're going to ask questions. There's a rubric that, goes by, are you coachable? Do you get your financials and where you're at? Do they think that your idea is going to be fiscally sustainable? Do you understand at least a little bit about the business that you're going into and whatnot? And, the questions are tough. And sometimes you get in and sometimes they'll say, honesty, we really like your idea, but you need a little more time.
Go sit with it.
Right. And, let's have you come back in a couple months. So, and then you leave, we talk about you. Brad and I advocate, for you. And then I bug them for, please give me the Rubik score within the hour so that I can then call and get all excited and jazzed and say, hey, you're in the Erie incubator. And then you come in and you shop for a suite. And what's nice about the incubator is that over 2 years, your rent goes up sequentially. So, you start off with, a low amount for rent. And then over 2 years, as you get funding or as you start to sell your product or service, the rent grows with you and you pay one price, and that includes everything. There's no other fees involved. And, you get 24/7 access to Brad and I. We do every 2-week meetings with you, but on a daily basis, we want to check in, where are you at? Because we want to make sure that if you are, encountering a barrier, that you're just not in your office going, oh my gosh, I can't do this. There's this big wall that we have to tackle. What's happening today? How can we help you? And then from there, when we feel that you're at a point that you've grown from us every 2 weeks, then we get a mentor/advisory panel for you to help you. And then those members switch out depending on what your need is at the time.
Now, Kathy, when you're talking about this whole process, I don't know, it was kind of reminding me of Shark Tank. I don't know if that you would compare it to that at all, or I don't know.
Well, we don't do funding. We don't do funding.
Okay.
and we don't fight.
Okay.
No, we don't. But it kind of is. They have to pitch. They have to know in and out their financials, what their costs of goods are, and that's, sometimes people get in there and they get so nervous about pitching to the intake committee. I mean, they're all so friendly and they're so nice, but this is your shot. And sometimes you get so nervous and you get tongue tied and then you have nothing in your brain. You have COVID brain and brain fog, and you could answer the questions when you were with Brad and I, but you can't answer the questions now, and that's heartbreaking sometimes because that they know their stuff. And those are when, hey, get that to where you're really confident about those numbers and then come back, which we do. So.
Yeah, the reason that they're nervous is because they care about their project.
Absolutely.
So, you just have to be able to confidently talk about it and go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So, but again, Brad and I are there to help, everybody. And, you can always check out our website at erietech.org. And there's an application also that you can fill out, not only to be a client, but maybe you're listening and you're like, oh, you know what? I could love to offer my services as a mentor. And there's also a mentor application too that you could fill out.
Cool. So speaking of mentor, go ahead, Brad.
Well, thank you, Matt. So Kathy, you brought up a really good point about getting into the incubator, and I'm going to feed you kind of an easy one here, but part of our ecosystem is. Not only do we try to get you in with your cheap rents, but can you talk about how we try to bring affordable labor to support these companies?
Oh, love to. Do I have enough time to talk about that?
Do.
I think I do. Okay. So the one thing that is absolutely awesome about coming into the incubator is when you walk into the building, as we've said before, you're walking into an entrepreneurial ecosystem on its own. So we not only have the Beehive to help with early business insights of crowdfunding, a pitch product if you need it, or, how do companies like you get the capital and the funding to start their business, is what the products are that our students do. And you have the Small Business Development Center, but you also have students in the building. In our building, it's business, of course. So we have the students, we have the faculty, but we're also plugged into all the other majors in the university. And we've had quite a few clients that, you're nowhere near ready to do your own payroll and worry about the payroll taxes and all that stuff. So what Brad has created are contracts with our clients and even third-party companies, which is awesome, where they gain real-world experience. We interview, we find the best candidate, we have you interview them, and then you pay, the student gets a certain rate, you get a little higher rate billed on a monthly basis, and then that goes to Gannon for helping with the payroll and whatnot. But then you get labor cheaply, excellent labor, but those students are also getting the real world experience. And so between the Beehive and our students, it's just a great system that we have.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of marketing students, accounting students, software
Coding,
development students. Yeah, and even if it's an experience where it's not as strong as we had hoped, we actually can replace that with another student.
Yep. And, unfortunately, sometimes we've had to. The other thing that's awesome is, maybe they just have a question and we don't have the answer because that's not our expertise. Our faculty is ready, willing, and able to answer those questions for free, to the client, especially, Dr. Castrogano. She's great with accounting and, helping with tax questions and things like that. So it's a really, really great system.
I can imagine that's a very large need, that piece of the puzzle. People, you have your idea for your product, you know how to produce your product. Somebody maybe like Adam, you may not have that financial background to say, okay, how do I organize all of this? So that's a really great resource.
Correct. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so many startups have a very limited budget early on. And when they're full blown and it really hitting on all cylinders, they can pay for a higher price consultant. And I shout out to Radius in there because they're body of businesses, but there's an interim phase that fits this model really well. And Kathy plays a big role in that. Shout out to Kathy. Last year in this system, we hired 130 students to do this type of work.
Yes.
Wow, that is very impressive. And even as long as I've known you, I did not know that, Brad.
Yeah. Yeah,
sometimes it's crazy, Brad. When Brad goes, oh, hey, but it's great because I get to work with students and you get to see when their light bulb goes on going, oh my gosh, I can't believe doing this and learning more than what I'm, just learning in books. So that's always a great thing when they can realize that.
So you mentioned mentoring. I'm kind of doing the segue here. We have had a interesting project that we put together with the Beehive.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with that and some of the big things that we have coming up this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brad and Matt were talking, and all of the universities, right? The population for incoming students is going down. There's going to be a big valley and dip and whatnot. And we have a product called the crowdfunding friendly analysis where we're going on Kickstarter and finding if, someone's product or idea would be successful on Kickstarter based on 8 parameters. And we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we started to target high schools, especially rural ones, because the ones in the city, they have the opportunities to, more than what the rural students would have. And so we had, working with Matt and Corey High School, hired Cameron and Marcus, who were absolutely awesome students. They hit the ground running, and they had the opportunity to not only work with the Beehive, work with clients, but they got to also present to the clients on their projects. So we were fortunate enough to get a grant, some grant money from Marquette, and we're able to hire 2 more students. We hired juniors, Hallie and Jordan, who want to continue. So as seniors, they are continuing to work on projects for us. And then I heard the other day that Union City is in with 2 students. That's super exciting. So we'll be getting applications, and we'll be starting that interview process. But it's awesome because, they're top students, they're getting real world experience, they're learning research skills that they may not, access in high school, and it's helping them, especially on their, their applications to, to colleges, that, hey, I was actually working with entrepreneurs in the area while you're still in high school. And it's such a great project. Love working with those students.
It is great to see. And I talk about this a little bit. We don't have enough students through the data set yet to say, okay, this is a proof of concept where we've reached out and made the connection with these students. But it is the foundational piece of a lot of what we're working on at the Corey High Ed, where we believe strongly in the rural areas and the talent that's there. Our big renovation that's coming, that renovating the top 2 floors of our building. This is the building block piece that says, yes, this will work in rural areas, and there is a bedrock of very, very talented students in those areas. So. We got to see it a little bit with the first 2 that went through, Cameron and Marcus. And the other part of it is that I've said all along, what we do at the High Ed, I have no interest in competing with the other higher educational institutions in Erie. We have wonderful institutions here for a city of our size. It's not to compete; it's actually to possibly help feed and find those students, through that process. So we were excited. Marcus did end up coming to Gannon.
He did, and I need to email him and say, hey, you need to stop by and say hi. But the other thing that I think is nice is that we're also teaching the students professionalism, and it starts with having an office at the Corey Higher Ed. It's decked out with hive decorations, but they have their own dedicated computers.
Right.
And it's a place to go that's not in their living room. It's not in the study hall, but they're actually going to work. And the professionalism piece, they're not going to get anywhere else.
Right. In our research of our big project that's coming up, that's the number one thing that people are saying. Like, you can take education remotely now. That's easy to do. What people were missing was that feeling of belonging, to go to a place, to be included and have their own space. So
right.
It's interesting that we're still doing a lot of remote education because we're out in Corey, but having a place to go do that is so important. And we get that feedback all the time. So
yeah, absolutely.
With the renovations coming and some of the educational paths that we're using for that, there's a lot of excitement. We have some companies and corporations that are coming on board potentially.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're very excited. I guess what else is going on with the Beehive this upcoming year besides the new students?
Let's see. The Penn State Beehive node hired an event coordinator. So we're going out more into the different areas of Erie County and beyond that we haven't been able to touch, and talking to the chamber and that one event, Matt, that you organized in Union City, we had 23 people that came that night.
I didn't organize. That was Cherie over
Oh,
at
was it? Oh,
at
okay.
the chamber, but that was awesome.
Oh, my gosh.
I rode over there just to look around, and there were so many people with their ideas.
Right.
I left. I don't know how late you were there.
I was there late because it was almost like playing pool.
It was
They
awesome.
would, they lined up to talk to whomever, and then they were putting business cards down, like you would put a quarter to play, to reserve your spot for pool, to talk. And we literally helped every single person that came. That was just phenomenal. So we're going to be outreaching to more areas. We're going to be speaking at the chamber homecoming the first week of October, and kind of telling the story. When we go out, we say, hey, it started, 10 years ago. We meet every Friday, but how did the idea actually happen? So we're going to be speaking about that, which is going to be awesome. And then Global Entrepreneurship Week, the week before Thanksgiving. I'm reminding myself when I keep saying that, because I'm like, I wonder when it is this year. Then I finally realize that it's the week before Thanksgiving all the time. So, so it's going to be, everything that we do, we make sure and we're cognizant that we do it for the startups, and how can we reach out to more startups so that they know about us? Because we still hear, that they don't know anything about us, which is interesting. And anyone that's listening, you can go on to the erietech.org site, and right up in the top right corner is community resources, and you can actually click on that, and you can type in if you're looking for any type of help. It's going to show local agencies. It's going to show regional and national. We have Thrive on there. We have the Achievers Entrepreneurial Hub. We have Ben Franklin Technology Partners, the Chamber, of course, Erie's Black Wall Street. Corey Higher Head is on that, the Beehive Network, the local banks, the Northwest Commission. There are so many entities that we work with and refer our Beehive clients to and our ETI clients to that can help. And, the majority is free. And that's an awesome thing for Erie.
It sure is. So I've taken to calling this the fastest hour.
I know. Oh my gosh, and I was so nervous.
We're coming up on the end here. So Steph, we have just a little bit of time. Don't do too many classes, but we talked about one that we're looking for more registrations. It's an important class. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's the Master Homeowner class that's coming up, and that is starting off on September 12th. It's going to be a series of 9 classes held on Thursdays, and it's brought to you by the Erie County Land Bank, Impact Corey, and the Corey High Ed. And you can register for all of them, and you'll save money. It'll be a cost of savings of $65, $135 if you want to take all. But you don't have to take all. You can take one of the classes or a couple, and that is like some of them will be like Homeowner's Toolbox, basic home maintenance. And also, like at this class, it's not just going to be like talking about how you do things. They're going to have actual models that show you how to fix things and work on things. So make sure you get registered for that. That's coming up sooner than you think.
Sounds great.
Okay.
So
and please sign up, because I don't want this canceled. I just bought a house and I want to go to this. So
I have the dad joke ready. Right off of that, I gave my handyman a to-do list, but he only did jobs 1, 3, and 5. Turns out he only does odd jobs.
But
yeah, that got producer Joel. If I can get him to laugh, we're on the right track. So we're wrapping up here. I don't have guests for next week yet, so you'll have to wait to see who that is. We're excited. Coming up next week is my big wedding. So we'll do the show Friday, and then I got to go get ready for all that big fun stuff. So we will see you next week. I'll do the show in the morning. Stick around here for the Economic Pulse with Laith and Tina.
Thank you.
Yeah.